It was the first Star Trek series made without Gene Roddenberry. It was different, darker, and full of conflict. And it proved that Gene's vision of the future was bigger and richer and more dramatic than anyone had thought. It was Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. 1991 was a big year for Star Trek and its fans. It marked the 25th anniversary of the original series. The Next Generation was going strong, and Star Trek VI was the last movie to feature the original cast. It was the year that we all mourned the passing of Star Trek's creator, Gene Roddenberry. And it was the beginning of a bold new chapter in the Star Trek saga. Before Gene passed, he entrusted his creation to Rick Berman and Michael Piller. Both had years of experience producing and writing The Next Generation, but they knew their creation had to be very different. Of course, no one knew if fans would accept a very different Star Trek. Berman and Piller set Star Trek Deep Space Nine not on a Federation starship, but on an alien space station. It was a grittier concept whose characters would include Starfleet officers, but also featured Bajoran freedom fighters, Cardassian oppressors, and a host of colorful figures from different worlds, including a Trill, a shapeshifter, and a certain Ferengi fashion icon. Space Station Deep Space Nine was built by Cardassians. Now, under Bajoran control, the station was a hotbed of conflict between opposing factions, none of whom wanted to be there. In the series premiere, Starfleet officer Benjamin Sisko took command of the station. When he moved it to a mysterious wormhole, DS9 became the most strategic outpost in the galaxy, and it placed Ben Sisko squarely in the middle of the Bajoran struggle for survival, as well as the struggle of the Federation itself during the looming Dominion War. At Paramount Pictures, the look of the station was the responsibility of veteran production designer Armin Shimerman, whose credits included The Next Generation and recent Star Trek feature films. He and his team undertook the challenge to expand Star Trek's visual vocabulary by devising a whole new design aesthetic. They came up with dozens of ideas for the alien space station, settling on a concept inspired by an oil drilling platform. The producers liked the proposal, and all that remained was to refine the design. But to Zimmerman's shock, the all-but-approved concept was suddenly rejected when Berman realized that a simpler approach was needed. They eventually settled on a concept based on a gyroscope with intersecting rings and distinctly alien surface details. The final design, by illustrator Rick Sternbach and built by master model maker Tony Meininger, featured an elegant simplicity and alien strangeness. The station's structure was dominated by 3 distinctive docking towers, but the real center of activity of the new show would be the station's Promenade. They envisioned alien architecture with strange symmetries, dramatic ellipses, and details inspired by reptilian biology. Armin Shimerman liked to joke to his team, "If unique is what you seek, bizarre is what we are." Deep Space Nine's Promenade was the largest interior set that had ever been built for Star Trek. It filled the entire length of Stage 17 at Paramount. The multi-level promenade featured spectacular windows that highlighted the Cardassian architecture. Colorful banners echoed the richness of the many alien cultures we would meet. Below was the promenade's lower level. Young Jake Sisko and his friend Nog spent many an hour hanging out on these crossover bridges, watching the galaxy go by. Turbolifts provided access to other parts of the station. And here's a glimpse of the most important part of the promenade. We'll talk about that later. The promenade, as envisioned by the art department, was far bigger than any studio soundstage. So, a large scenic painting was positioned at each end, visually extending the set beyond the physical limits of the soundstage. The lower level of the Promenade bustled with businesses and visitors from around the galaxy. Here's a room we called a swing set. It was first seen as a security holding area, but it could be modified to become other locations on the Promenade. It later became Garrick's tailor shop, a geological assay office, and Keiko's schoolroom. When visiting spaceships docked at Deep Space Nine, travelers often entered the station through this airlock. Medical services at Deep Space Nine were provided at the station's infirmary by Dr. Julian Bashir, who took care of all Starfleet personnel as well as the station's residents and sojourning aliens. Because Deep Space Nine was originally a Cardassian facility, most of the station's technology, including the computer interfaces, was Cardassian, yet another layer of alien strangeness. Many of the station's residents were Bajoran, so the Promenade featured a Boran Temple. Interestingly, only the temple's entrance was part of the Promenade set. Whenever we saw the actual temple interior, it was a separate set built on a different soundstage. This Promenade store sold a variety of strange wares, but if you look really closely at the alien merchandise, a lot of it was found objects provided by our ingenious set decorator, Laura Richards. DS9 illustrator Ricardo Delgado realized that the Promenade's customers included people from many different worlds who spoke many different languages. He thought that some stores might overcome this by using pictorial signage. Ricardo designed this for a restaurant that apparently served some type of alien sushi. Delicious, I think. Law enforcement on DS9 was the purview of Odo, the station's chief of security. This was his office. Odo's brand of strict, fair, unwavering justice earned him the respect of nearly everyone on the station. Me? I think he should have minded his own business. By the way, if you look closely at the wanted posters on the display screens, you might recognize alien versions of some of my co-workers on the show's production crew. I wonder how that happened. Across from the security office was a casual dining restaurant called the Replimat. Look at the exotic delicacies on the menu boards. I never tried skull stew or tentacle soup, but you gotta admit, they look delicious. Julian Bashir enjoyed many a mug of Raktajino here, along with his friend Garrick, the mysterious Cardassian tailor who always insisted that he wasn't a spy. I certainly believed him. In case you were looking for a particular business on the Promenade, you might consult this directory. We called it the Rosetta Stone because it was written in English, Klingon, Vulcan, Ferengi, Bajoran, and Cardassian. However, if you were to look very closely, you might see listings for some businesses that were never actually seen on the show, including several from other science fiction franchises like Hitchhiker's Guide, Buckaroo Banzai, and the Jetsons. Personally, I always wanted to hang out at Pancho's Happy Bottom Riding Club from the right stuff. If all your shopping and dining on the Promenade left you a little short on Federation credits or Gold Press Platinum, you could always stop by the ATM, which offered cash advances and interstellar currency exchange, all at honest Ferengi rates. And if your money was still burning a hole in your pocket, this Cardassian travel agency ad sold tours to some of the galaxy's most exotic locales, some of which look suspiciously like matte paintings from earlier Star Trek episodes. At last, here we are, the heart of the Promenade. And indeed, the most important place on the entire station was unquestionably Quarks Bar. Here, travelers from a myriad of different worlds were welcome. They all enjoyed the hospitality of one of the galaxy's most renowned hosts, my good friend and accomplished entrepreneur, Quark. Whatever your favorite beverage, exotic or familiar, You could get it at Quarks, served with a smile. Quarks was also renowned for its exciting games of skill and chance, such as Tango, and of course, Dabo, featuring some of the most exotic gaming hosts in the galaxy. Dominating the entire bar was this gorgeous banner, the spectacular symbol of Quarks, famous throughout the galaxy. Upstairs, Quarks brought a whole new dimension to holographic entertainment, with holosuite programs ranging from the wholesome to the exotic. You could experience the historical Battle of the Alamo, or the adventures of a 1960s British Secret Service agent, or a rendezvous with the very strange pleasure goddess of Rix. Quarks Holosuites had something for everyone. An enormous amount of creative inspiration and hard work, not to mention a great deal of money, went into bringing Deep Space Nine to the screen. But the critical question remained: would the television audience accept this deliberate, dramatic departure from Star Trek tradition? Everyone knew this was a real gamble with real risks. And so, on January 3rd, 1993, Star Trek Deep Space Nine finally premiered. The pilot movie, Emissary, was a powerful tale of a man struggling to deal with the loss of his wife, even as he fights to keep the peace at this alien outpost. Avery Brooks brought the role of Benjamin Sisko to life with power and sensitivity. He led a diverse and talented cast whose performances told an epic saga of a deeply spiritual people fighting to assert their place in the galaxy during a time of intrigue and war. The reaction? Emissary was the highest-rated episode of Star Trek since the premiere of Next Gen. It even beat out the best of both worlds. Deep Space Nine showed that Star Trek's appeal was far broader than anyone had previously thought. It proved there was room to explore the human condition with an even wider range of characters and stories on the final frontier. All thanks to a family of writers, actors, designers, and filmmakers dedicated to exploring Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future, reminding us that if we work together, embracing our differences, then tomorrow can be a better place for all of us.